Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's the Adventures of Tom Sawyer for the NES, brought to us by the Seta Corporation. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, of course, is based on the beloved novel by Mark Twain. In the game, we play as Tom Sawyer, who ends up falling asleep in his classroom and has a dream where he has to rescue Becky from Injun Joe. In order to save her, we're going to have to go down the Mississippi River, travel through a haunted house, and even adventure into a dark cave. Now, it's pretty interesting that they would make a game based on a novel from 1876. But even more interestingly is that this wasn't the only game on the NES made based on Tom Sawyer. There was also an RPG that was released only in Japan based on Tom Sawyer by Squaresoft. Heck, that game even featured Nobuo Uematsu composing one of his first soundtracks. So here we go with the Adventures of Tom Sawyer for the NES. At the beginning of the game, you can select one or two players, the first player being Tom Sawyer and the second one actually being Huckleberry Finn. We then get to see a small cutscene of Tom Sawyer located in his classroom and falling asleep with his book open. We then enter stage number 1 on a pirate ship. As you can see, it's pretty much a basic platformer. You can jump over enemies, but your main attack ends up being a rock or marble that you can throw at enemies in order to kill them. Try to do your best to jump over the barrels that are going to try to get in your way on the top of the pirate ship, and any pirates that get in your way, be sure to throw a rock at them. When you defeat an enemy, they end up dropping a T emblem, which you can pick up, which is kind of like a coin from Mario. When you get down here, be sure to wait at the top of the ladder for the pirate to go over before climbing up the rest of the way. A lot of the pirates down here, you can actually just run straight forward as they'll actually jump over your head and you won't even have to attack them. Once you make it down the last ladder, it's time for the mini-boss of the level, this giant mouse. He appears and you throw a rock at him, in which case he then explodes and travels to the opposite side where he tries to throw a sound wave at you. Just stay near the bottom and you should be able to just duck right underneath of it as it goes above you. Throwing one more rock will defeat the mouse and you can continue on. Down in the bottom of the ship, be careful of the octopus enemies that are going to keep moving towards you firing. Just take your time and you should be able to avoid most of their projectiles and launch in one of your own and destroy them so you can continue on. After the screen opens up to an all-black screen, it's time for the boss battle of the level. You have this large octopus enemy that you have to throw rocks at his eyes in order to defeat him. Just stand right next to him and keep launching rocks at him and he'll never be able to hurt you, and you can move on the stage too easily. In the second level of the game, we're actually rafting down the Mississippi River. Now this level is definitely a big change up from the first stage. Control the raft by moving all around, as well as throwing out some more of those rocks or marbles straight ahead of you to destroy things that may try to get into your path. It starts off rather simple, but it's actually pretty cool overall because you have the ability to also jump off the raft into the air, and you'll have to do this quite a few times in order to avoid getting stuck. Here's the first time that we have to jump over a piece of land and land back on the raft. Be sure that you land on the raft and don't accidentally fall into the water or land on the land itself because you will end up losing a life that way. Also, try to do your best to avoid the giant birds that are also trying to attack you during this. Here we can pick multiple paths to go down. I'm going to choose the left side and be sure to jump over these large paddles that are going to try to sweep over the water and try to hit you. Either way will end up leading you to the same spot, so it's whichever way you think ends up being easier for you. Once you get past that, the river opens back up again, and you'll have to destroy some more logs and stuff that are going to try to get in your way. If you're able to grab the heart item, you end up becoming invulnerable for a period of time. This is great, and you can just run into all the birds and other enemies that are going to try to get in your way on the river. After this island, the water will open up a little bit. Try to be careful of the whale enemies that are trying to hit you. Pretty weird for whales to be in the Mississippi River, but then again, this is Tom Sawyer's dream, so I guess anything is possible here. During this segment, be careful of the frogs jumping from island to island as well as the whirlpools. Thankfully though, those whirlpools are on the sides and you can just run up the middle and have no problem. Watch out for some more whirlpools and get on the side here. Stay on the far right side and you'll be able to avoid the little boy throwing rocks into the water, as well as get a good shot on the logs that may come straight at you. When you make it up here, be sure to get ready and jump over the land masses in the middle, and be sure to also try to do your best to avoid the rock throwing boy. But thankfully when he does throw a rock, you should be in the air and he won't be able to hit you with it. When the water completely opens up and there's no other islands, it's time for the boss battle of the level. The boss is a giant crocodile, and this boss can be a little bit tricky to hit. In order to hurt this alligator, you actually have to fire directly in between its front teeth and hit it in the mouth. As you can see, this can be quite tricky. Keep firing straight at it in order to actually hit it, fire multiple shots, and hopefully one of them will actually pierce through and actually hit him in the tongue. It won't take too many hits to defeat him, but it can take a little bit. Thankfully though, he really can't hurt you unless you run into him, and the little whirlpools that go around will only push you backwards and are just more of a nuisance than anything else. Once you take care of him though, you move on to stage number 3. Stage number 3 takes place in the forest. We have snake enemies as well as bats that are going to try to attack you. When you make it over here, you have some hedgehog type enemies that are going to try to run at you. For the most part though, staying on the ground, you really won't have too many enemies to deal with. Just be careful of a gopher near the very end that will try to pop up and hit you. When you make it here, jump along the platforms, for most of the enemies are just going to go above you. So take your time, and as long as you don't jump into them, they're really no threat. There are a few seahorse enemies underwater, but they don't really do anything but float there, so you can just avoid them altogether. Jump along the mushrooms and throw a rock or two at some of the enemies that may try to scoot in your path. Jump up here and take out the bird as it tries to dive towards you. If you're lucky enough, you'll end up getting the slingshot item. This allows you to have a better weapon overall as it fires straight forward. Jump along the trees and stay near the top as all the enemies will actually be below you and you can avoid all of them. When you make it over here, it's time for the boss battle. A lot of these monkey enemies will appear and then they'll form into a giant gorilla. Jump up and throw a rock directly at the face of the gorilla each time he stops flashing. It doesn't take too many hits, and he may eventually fire out a rock projectile that will break apart. Just stand over to the right of it so you can avoid as it breaks apart, and deliver a couple more shots for the monkey to run off, and you'll complete the stage. Stage number 4 is inside of the Haunted Mansion. We have some more bat enemies, as well as we have skeleton enemies to deal with. Watch out for the candles in the background that will end up throwing fire in your direction. Just stand right underneath the candle, and the fire that shoots out will actually go around you and not land on you. When you get to the skeletonite enemy, just stand to the left of him and keep firing, and he won't actually run into you, and you can just keep hitting him until he dies. After climbing along the top part here, and get past the stairs, you'll come to a giant picture of a Grim Reaper. This is time for the mini-boss, this witch enemy. Just keep throwing rocks from the right side, and it'll only take 4 of them to hit her and defeat her. Once she's done, move over to the stairs on the left and climb upwards. When you make it over here, you'll have a choice of going on the upper or lower path. Choosing the upper path, you'll only have one spider enemy that gets in your way. Just wait for it to go down and jump over it to get past. Once you reach over here, you'll have to battle with a giant devil statue. Jump up and throw rocks at the crystal that's glowing on the bottom of its stick. After a little while, he'll charge up the stick and throw out a little devil item that will actually try to attack you with flames. Just stay on the bottom ground and try to wait for the devil to float down towards you so you actually can fire rocks at it and hit it. It can be a little bit tricky to actually hit him, but once he's defeated, throw a couple more rocks at the staff crystal and you'll defeat the boss and move on to the next level. Stage number 5 takes place in the clouds. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. It's kind of a really weird fantasy level overall. There's a lot of enemies here, so take your time, and your first time through, you're probably going to end up running into a few of them. The raindrop enemies are a little bit annoying because they move rather quickly. However, the lightning bolts shooting clouds can be the worst. Just stand directly underneath them, and when they fire out the lightning bolts, it'll go in a spread shot past you, and you should be able to avoid getting hit. Once you make it to the area with the shooting stars, just keep running as fast as possible to get past that area to a new area filled with dragons that are going to try to attack. Just move quickly and really only focus on the dragons that are going to get directly in your path. Jump over any fireballs that you may need to, and you should be able to get past. Once you make it over here past a few volcanoes, you have a guy riding a cloud, which is the mini-boss of the level. After standing on the far left side of the cloud and firing a few rocks at him as he comes down, you should be able to get past. When you make it over here, grab the balloon item and you'll start riding in a cloud. This will take you to the actual boss battle of the stage. The boss is a giant blimp enemy. It has a few cannons that open up on the side of it, so just stand near it and fire shots directly at it, and you'll instantly destroy it with only one hit. There are a few other cannons that you may have to move up and down for on the top part of the ship, as well on the bottom part. However, if you fire quick enough, you'll be able to destroy them before they ever get a shot off at you. Be careful, and when you reach the end, you'll have to fire a few shots at the engine on the blimp. Once you destroy that engine, you'll go past the blimp and complete the level. Stage number 6 is the final level of the game, and it takes place inside of the caves. Be careful at the beginning, for a few bad enemies will try to get you as well as scorpion enemies. You'll have a few spikes that will try to fall down from the ceiling, but if you move quickly by them, you should be able to get past before they even fall down. In the next area, there's a lot of bats on the ceiling, however they won't actually try to attack you below, so just focus on running past them. When you make it here, be very careful and work your way up the left side, as it's probably the least infected by the fish that are going to try to jump out of the waterfall. When you make it to the top, the screen will start scrolling back over to the left and you'll be in an ice area. Be careful of a few of the spikes that will once again start falling. For the most part though, as long as you're quick, you should be able to run past most of them. When you drop down here, be careful of a few white snake enemies, and then you'll make it to the very bottom where the screen will once again scroll to a fire area. The screen will stop scrolling and you'll have to fight a series of flame dragons. Stand on the middle platform and wait for the dragons to come out towards you, and just keep throwing rocks at them until you eventually destroy them all. It may take a little bit of time, but standing on that middle platform is the best strategy. Once you get past them though, it's time for Injun Joe and the final boss battle. You'll have to face Injun Joe while he's riding on a dinosaur. Just keep jumping up and firing at his arms and you'll be able to hit him over and over again, and he'll never fire any shots at you. Once you defeat him, you can sit back and enjoy the ending. So at the ending, Tom wakes up in his classroom and there's a few feathers sitting there to make you think that maybe all of it really wasn't a dream. So there you have The Adventures of Tom Sawyer for the NES. It's nothing spectacular and ends up being a rather mediocre and kind of shallow overall platform game. But just the fact that it exists and that it was actually a not too bad experience makes it an overall interesting title in the NES library. And with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.